You're very welcome to the Firm and Fast Golf Podcast. As always, I'm your golf tragic host, Shane Derby. Every so often you come across a story so compelling that you file it away. Perhaps you might connect with the protagonist or protagonists on LinkedIn. I wonder if the knowledge of said story will ever become anything more than a footnote in one's memory. Well, the time has come to dust down one of these stories. Back in 2010, there were strange murmurings on Facebook with respect to two likely lads from New Zealand who were on an epic adventure. They jacked in their day jobs as attorneys and were attempting to play golf every day for a whole year while travelling around the world and raising money for a very worthy cause in the guise of the First Tee of New Zealand. They were an easy and entertaining follow with their regular updates via YouTube, Facebook and the periodic blog, which served in part as travelogue and a calling card to the wider golf community, who reached out in spades, providing golf invites, beds and or couches, hotel rooms, clothing and provisions in equal measure. These adventurers were Jamie Patton and Michael Goldstein, and I'm very pleased to welcome Michael live from Central Otago, New Zealand, for a trip down memory lane, in addition to a wander around some great stories and adventures from his trip, what he's been up to since, and whatever else tickles our respective fancies. We hope you enjoy the PureGolf2010 Retrospective. Many thanks for tuning in. Hi Michael, you're very welcome to the Firm and Fast Golf Podcast. It's great to have you on the show.
G'day Shane, good to be here.
I understand that you've had an unwelcome recent visitor to the Goldstein household. COVID-19 struck you down a few days back. I hope it wasn't too nasty.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it's it is what it is. We've been pretty impacted down here though, because New Zealand's border's been fundamentally closed for 2 years. So it feels like a little bit of an anticlimax getting it.
All good things come to those who wait. Notwithstanding the dose of COVID, how was all in Central Otago, the centre of Pinot Noir viticulture?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful down here in autumn, and everybody should visit. It's been impacted quite a bit through COVID. Obviously, a bit of a tourism destination. So, but I've lived down here for 2 years now, and it's amazing place.
I'm very conscious that the PureGolf2010 adventure was some 12 years ago. So you might give the listeners a quick intro to Michael Goldstein, the who, where, what, as it were?
Oh, that's a big question. I'm just a golf tragic, really, who once upon a time played a lot of golf for a year. And I struggle to remember it because it's a bit of it feels like a lifetime ago. But, for me, golf was not a huge part of my life, probably akin to many people in Ireland who just grew up playing golf with parents interested in golf, and it was very much a third sport for me. So, I'd play with my grandfather and my mum and my dad, and the odd tournament, but never anything serious. I kept a good handicap all through my life, single figures. But golf was, the third sport, and when life got in the way, it became something that I'd do probably half a dozen times a year. So that was, my relationship with golf. I'd binge in the summers and family holidays and, play twice a day, and my parents would put me at the golf club. But as I got into my working life, it very much took a back seat. So then one day, my buddy and I, probably quite foolishly, made a decision that changed all of that and suddenly put my life on a different course, which very much involves golf.
The overseas experience is a rite of passage for many Kiwis. I know that your partner in crime, Jamie, is originally from Scotland, so he'd definitely been overseas. However, I'm interested to know, prior to the PureGolf2010 adventure, had you been overseas, or was Pure Golf your first OE experience?
Well, my dirty little secret is that I was actually born in Aussie. So I spent most of my life back and forth between Sydney and Christchurch, which is where my parents are from, respectively. So, crossing the ditch for me was very normal. And I traveled a little bit around the US with my family, but outside of that, I spent my early 20s studying and playing sports. So, doing an OE was something down the track. So, my year of golf with Jamie was an OE, if we're being honest. Like, as you say, like all Kiwis, a lot of Kiwis, they do an OE. And for us, we just didn't want to be normal. We didn't want to be those guys that went to London and put on our suits and worked in the city and took lots of holidays. We just wanted to kind of do something a bit different. And golf was a bit of a vehicle to do that.
I'm keen to explore the initial inspiration for the trip. If memory serves, I believe that the end of season hockey trip to Cape Kidnappers in perhaps 2009 has a lot to answer for.
Yeah. Like Jamie and I, we were repressed lawyers, and I guess one of the only good things in our life was playing hockey, and it was really good camaraderie. And on that hockey trip, we played golf, and like, to be honest, probably played golf 5 times that year, and we loved it. Playing golf with our mates, and we were just being a bit silly, and I said, why don't we do this every day for a year? And as I said, we're not that happy in our jobs, and we were scheming all kinds of different ventures. We were clearly going to do something else, and in some respects, this was like the path of least resistance, because we didn't have to find capital or go into business. We could just go and travel the world and play golf. It kind of felt easier in some respects than getting on with the real life.
So what you're saying is there was some degree of procrastination or kicking the can down the road, and
I think we just weren't in a stage in our lives where we were ready to. We knew we wanted to do something, but we just weren't sure what that was. So a lot of Kiwis in that position, they go traveling, and our travel just involved golf.
So you posited the idea of playing golf every day for a year. How did the seed of an idea for the adventure really germinate and start to take flight?
We just hung out at Jamie's place and just spitballed, and we were kind of learning at that stage. We were learning about golf media and golf courses, and we started to get the odd introduction to people. But we were super green. I told the story. I used to tell the story a lot when we were in that space, but we got an invite one day to Cypress Point, and we didn't know what it was. Like the number, whatever, 2 or 3 golf course in the world, and somebody said, do you want to come and play at Cypress Point? And we were like, sounds good. It's another course that we need to, another day checked off. It didn't mean that much to us at the time. So we were just kind of feeling it all out, and we were just naive, and I guess that was beautiful in some respects, and probably helped us in some respects, because certainly when we started, it wasn't about ticking off, lists or anything like that.
It kind of turned out that way, though. That some of the, we'll get to Cypress Point later on. There is a lovely story about there that I want you to share. But obviously, I think you started your communications initially with golf clubs in New Zealand and Australia, and you seem to get some significant traction early doors. How long did it take you before you decided to greenlight the escapade really and start arrangements and get the finger out in earnest?
There's probably not a fixed day, but we would write to golf clubs around New Zealand, and they were coming back, and the secretaries or the general managers would say, we'd love to host you courtesy of the course, and we like what you're doing. And every one of those gave us confidence and momentum, and we thought, okay, we've got 20 or 30 courses lined up here. We could give this a nudge. Probably one of the key dates was, and now a very good friend of mine, was director of golf at Kauri Cliffs and Cape Kidnappers, and he wrote to us. I've probably still got the email somewhere, and he said, why don't we start and finish? We'll start at Kauri and we'll finish at Cape. We'll support you guys. And that was probably one of the last dominoes when we were like, fuck, we've got to do this.
So as you said, you started, I was, we will get to my little trip down to New Zealand later on, but I was happy, and I was, I guess, fortunate to play Cape Kidnappers, which just blew my head off, obviously, when I was over there. My bro lived there for a couple of years. Obviously, for those that don't know, it's a Dote Design, Hawke's Bay region of New Zealand. Is it 12k the driveway is in from the road? It's quite phenomenal through the sheep station.
It's a stunning place. I was there last weekend, actually. It's where I got COVID.
Yeah, you're making me feel really jealous.
It's a golf course that's been closed for about 6 months. Tom and his, I think Angela Moser have been up there doing a bit of reshaping work. So with the borders closed, Robertson family took the time to make some changes. So it's been closed for quite a while.
Okay. So we've established the escapade started and finished at Cape Kidnappers. Just to fill people in, I guess, just in terms of broad brushstrokes, obviously you would travel to Australia, I believe twice, on to the USA, to Scotland, to Ireland, to England, to Wales, to France, maybe passing through Belgium, the Netherlands, the United Arab Emirates, as I say, back to Australia before getting home to Aotearoa. It's just phenomenal. I mean, what you managed to accomplish, and obviously all to the benefit of the First Tee of New Zealand. I guess the first stop I want to sort of bring you back to, I know you organised a game with the great Jack Newton at the Vintage in the Hunter Valley. I incidentally played there back in '06 and remember a mate of mine chasing a black red belly snake across one of the fairways. I don't think that's such a good idea. But a paddy on tour, what do you expect? What do you remember from the first weeks of the golf trip in Australia? Maybe what you remember from that round with Jack Newton, as yourself and Jamie Ree started to hit your travelling stride.
Yeah. We got to Aussie. We spent the first 2 months in New Zealand, and it's a bit of a grind at times. Quite an adjustment playing golf every day when you're not used to it. We certainly had our ups and downs. It wasn't all roses. When we got to Aussie, it became a bit of an adventure. It was quite a while before we got up to see Jack. It was, a good kind of 2 months through our Aussie trip. But Jack was an absolute legend, just such a character. And we went and played with him that day at the Vintage, and to watch him play golf with one arm was just incredible. And he was struggling a bit, but then all of a sudden he just rips it, with a nice draw off the tee and makes a par with one arm. You're just shaking your head going, this is mental. But the thing about Jack, obviously, it's not about his golf these days. But we played 9 holes and he was just hacking it around. And then he said, "Oh, let's go in for a bourbon or rum or whatever he drank." And we went into the clubhouse after 9 holes and started having some beers. And we were probably 3 or 4 beers deep. And he said, "Well, we'll get the next round. And we were like, "Geez, there's only about an hour and a half daylight left. We've got 9 holes to play." And obviously, our thing was we had to play a whole round every day. So we're 100 days into our trip or something. We're kind of buggering up having beers with Jack. So we said, "Oh, we better go and jump in a golf cart." And he thought we were joking. He was like, "Oh, you've played enough golf, carry on." So we jumped in the golf cart and literally just speed golf around 9 holes, and then came and carried on drinking with him. And a couple of hours later, his wife came and picked him up, and I think we slept in the car park or something. But I stayed with Jack on the way back because he lives in the Newcastle area, Hunter Valley area. And I stayed with him my last few days in Aussie, and Jamie actually left the trip for a couple of weeks, which wasn't well documented, but we had a bit of a set too. So I had about 15 days of soul searching, playing golf by myself, and I stayed with Jack during that trip back down from Brisbane to Sydney. And he put me up at his place, and unbelievable memorabilia. He's got this, because he's a man's man, and he's got this big man's room with a bar, and we sat there drinking beers, and you're looking around the walls at, when he had his accident, the whole world rallied around him, not just the world of golf, but the world of Australian sport. And it was one of those moments that you just pinch yourself and you're like, where am I? So look, Jack, subsequently, he's been involved in tournament golf, which I've got into, and I've just got a huge amount of respect for him and what he's done. And he's going through a rough time now, so I feel for him and his family.
I think one of the things that strikes me in relation to the journey that you were on back in 2010 is really how the fraternity of golf, if you like, reached out to you. And certainly that's my impression in terms of, I think you were a bit gobsmacked in terms of the people you met, the offers that you got, the home-cooked meals that you were given, the bits of floor that you were given, etc., just people's generosity.
Yeah, that's what it was all about. The year for us was not, golf was a big part of it. But I think we stayed with 200 different families. You know, we made friends with hundreds and thousands of people, playing golf with them. You know, they share their life, you know, visiting their house, you know, they're opening up their doors, especially in places like America where it doesn't happen that often. It was what it was all about. And, you know, when we came up with the idea, we thought it would be about the people, and it turned out that was 100%, you know, what it was all about. We were naive, pretty green 24-year-olds, and after a year of staying with all these people in different cultures, it was, you know, we were definitely changed people.
Were you aware of the impact, perhaps, that and the reach of that impact that you were having around the world? I mean, you guys were an easy follow. Obviously, blogs on Facebook, YouTube videos, you know, the blog you did for stuff.co.nz, you know, it kind of was drip, drip, drip. And it was almost like a stone picking up moss going down a hill.
It's very kind saying that. It's strange to think, but 12 years ago was a different age to now, like with social media and everything. Like we were doing it to get by and to tell our mum and dad what was going on, you know. Whereas like the world's changed now. Like I'm on Instagram and it wasn't all about social media. It was really around proving that we'd done it.
I'm still alive, Mum.
Yeah, proving that we'd done it, proving that we hadn't gone off on a bender and given up on this quest. So the blog we wrote a blog, which is old school. And what that meant was generally Jamie would write and I would make videos and try and hash them together using old school iMovie technology. It was just part of it. It certainly wasn't trying to commercialize or fuel the thing. Whereas like these days, it might be a little bit different with social media. I think at one stage, just like to put context, we had about 10,000 people reading the blog each week. So, and they're all golfers. So it kind of helped. The crazy thing about it, we'd get home from a day of golf and we'd have 50 emails inviting us to play golf at different places. And we'd just like pinch ourselves. How's this taken on the life of its own kind of thing? Like only 2 months ago, we were trying to get ourselves onto a golf course somewhere, and now we've got all these invites.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a very compelling story and very easy to, I guess, get on board with. Really, speaking personally, obviously you spent a few months touring around Australia and playing golf. Obviously, the next target was US. And it's probably fair to say that public access golf is a course available in the USA. However, reviewing some of the trophy courses that G-Boys ended up having in your itinerary, it's fair to say that most of them wouldn't quite fit in the description of Muni golf.
No, we didn't.
You might tell us how two boys and a Dodge Ram managed to darken some of the most famous golfing establishments throughout the lower 48 states.
Yeah, no, it's a bit crazy actually. We couldn't afford to play Muni golf, to be honest. Like we had no cash, so for us, and being invited to a private club made a lot more sense at the time because the host would pick up the tab. We literally had no money, so it was, yeah, that was one of the drivers of it in an odd way. But look, we got the Dodge, we bought it for a couple grand, and we drove it right across the states. And if we didn't find somewhere to stay, then we'd sleep in the Dodge. The US was mental. Like Americans was so friendly to us too, and it was just crazy humbling. You know, it definitely helped. It definitely helped that we started the US on a really high note, and through that we got introduced through a community of networks, and we're very, very grateful for those people, particularly the ones that helped us at the start, because it kind of like opened the door for us. And don't take that for granted, because I know that it's very difficult to get access to some of those places.
No, for sure. And I guess the moral of that story is aim high and move higher. Yeah. I mean, I think you flew into San Fran originally, did you? And you sort of pretty quickly knock off the Cal Club and Harding Park, and obviously leaving those in your rearview mirror, the Monterey Peninsula was probably next on the itinerary. We might linger at Cypress Point for a few minutes if you don't mind. You seem to be going pretty well from a memory of a video of yourself and Jamie scooting around Cypress Point. You seem to be going pretty well from a scoring perspective at one point. You might pick up this particular story with your host's explanation on the first tee regarding the local rule that pertains to starting from the first tee at Cypress.
Oh, yeah. I think the driving range is closed maybe in the mornings. And so they just said we can hit off the first tee until we're happy. So I think I took two, and then we carried on. But it was sparrows. It must have been, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and we were shaking in our boots. And, there was caddies everywhere. And all of these cultural things were like a real shock to us. And the beauty of that place at 7:30 in the morning, the mist rising, it's mesmerizing. And I think I was pretty much shaking like most of the way around the front nine, yeah, if not all the way around the front nine, just kind of, even though we'd played golf 4 months in a row, it was just like, wow, this place is unbelievable.
But mate, you had it on a string for a long time there, by the looks of it.
Yeah, like by that stage we were playing a bit of golf, and it definitely helped in the US that we went to the driving range first. We were in pretty good nick as well, because in Aussie we hadn't been overindulging, so yeah, we were enjoying our golf at that point, and I was lucky that day to hit the ball quite well, and it was just one of those otherworldly days, Shane, where you just grateful for everything. And unfortunately I started looking at the scorecard towards the end of the round and buggered it all up, but I can still remember 12 years on every single shot that I hit that day.
That says a lot for how you played, but also the location and where you played it.
Mm.
Obviously, you moved onwards to LA, Arizona, Texas, New Orleans, Florida, the Carolinas, obviously Harbour Town, Charleston Country Club, Pinehurst No. 2, and Kiowa Island. Closely followed by Marion, Pine Valley, Bethpage, Shinny, and NGLA. To be clear, we're only scratching the surface with the name drops. Hopefully, through some sort of name association and recognition there, you might be able to share an experience or two with regard to some of those places I just mentioned.
Oh, that's a big question.
I just pick one or two. I mean, I'm not looking for it. Look, not.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We didn't actually play Pinehurst too. We went through Pinehurst, but we couldn't get onto two, which is fine. And subsequently gone back. Amazing place, done amazing things at that resort. We went up to obviously the end of the trip. We're up in Long Island, which is unbelievable for golf. For us at that time, it wasn't unbelievable for getting hosted. So we were very much living in Dodgy, our van. So we parked up at Montauk out on the end of the peninsula, and we slept in our car out there, and we'd wake up, no showers, so we'd jump in the ocean. And I remember that day, we'd had a really ropey sleep, jumped in the ocean to wake up, and then we played both Shinnecock and National Golf Links in one day, and then we reverted back to Dodgy to sleep again in our car. So it was just kind of an insight of this double life that we were living. We were essentially, sleeping out of the car on one hand and then playing these amazing golf courses by day. So, yeah, it was incredible. We met a group of people up there as well in the Northeast that we met them through essentially like a boys group, and a couple of their fathers had been killed in 9/11, and they kind of brought us in as part of their group, and we played with about half a dozen of them, maybe more, and it was really interesting just understanding a little bit of the culture up there and the impact from 9/11, and I guess because they all knew each other when we played with them, there was almost like this sense of old friend. It wasn't like we were meeting a new person every day, even though we were. And look, they all took us to amazing places, but I remember that kind of thread running through that part of the trip more than anything. and we've stayed in touch with them. And when we got back, they actually invited us to a 10-year anniversary at a place called Secession Golf Club. And Jamie and I still didn't have any money, but we flew back to the States and went to this event with them. And it was incredible. So we stay in touch with a few of those people, and some of them have come out to New Zealand, and Jamie also has been across to New York to see them. And they were a big part of our trip.
You managed to flip dodgy, I believe, at a profit.
Yeah.
Before you headed off to Scotland via Iceland, Gatwick, and Edinburgh, I think. Pretty circuitous route to get to Scotland, but you made a $650 profit on the Dodge van. That's great work. Great work.
And we were so buggered because we were really tied up at that point. And when we sold it, we had this cash. I think we had like $3,000, but we didn't want to waste it in the next 4 days before we flew out. And without a car, for us, we were in trouble because we needed to drive to the golf courses. And we literally turned up at this golf club, the Creek Club, and we had an entire van filled with golf memorabilia and all crap. And as much as we tried to tidy it up and bring it to the golf club in an orderly fashion, we were a shambles. So we turned up at the Creek Club with 25 bags, shoe bags with, Cypress Point shoe bag filled with crap, and this one filled with crap, and the staff at the Creek Club just looked at us and were like, "What the hell? Like, who's descended?" And we've slept in our car for 2 nights. We look like shit. And
here come the bogans.
yeah. Are we letting these guys into our club? And they said they were so gracious. They sent us into their locker room, and our host, who we hadn't met, we were meeting him at the club. He just said, "Look, just chill out." He said, "Just leave it with me." And he gave us a cocktail, and it was probably like 11 in the morning. And he said, "Just leave it with me." And he ended up having us stay at his house until the end of our trip, and just made the last 4 days in the States work really well. So it was it was an important part of our trip, and he really helped us.
Yeah, so onwards to Scotland. Royal Troon, Castle Stewart, Royal Aberdeen, Cruden Bay, North Berwick, Muirfield, Machrihanish, in no particular order. Jamie was, of course, back home at this point.
Yeah.
How was the welcome for the aforementioned Phileas Fogg, as it were, and his passepartout, Mr. Goldstein?
Jamie, it was a real one of the great times of my life being over there with Jamie, to be honest. It was so cool to be like with one of your best mates in their home, but not just for a boys' weekend. We had 4 months driving around a part of the world, and like his oldest family friends gave us their Mercedes for 4 months. This old Mercedes, but
that was the grey Mercedes, you brought to Ireland as well, yeah.
We called it the Tank, and it was just so special to meet these old family friends of Jamie's, and they all welcomed us into their houses, and they were fully behind our trip, and like it was really powerful, to be honest. And like the memories of finishing that, because we had 4 months up there, and finishing that trip, I just did some work, some feedback for Jamie on his professional development, and I said, "I've never seen you happier than that." At the end of that 4 months, when we were giving the car back and spending time with his family, friends, and his family were there as well. And, it was really, really special from a homecoming perspective. Jamie had been away from Scotland for 10 years. And, I think more than anything, it was just a privilege to be able to see his town, his country alongside him. Yeah.
You went on to, I think you had a stopgap in Ireland before you got back to Scotland at some point, but again, links junkies, nothing wrong with that. Portstewart, Royal County Down, Lahinch, Ballyliffin, Portmarnock, Royal Dublin, with a smidgen of Parkland thrown in for good measure, and Mount Juliet, and Kevin Markham's favourite at Druids Glen. I know the last course you played was my own home course at Royal Dublin. I do seem to remember that you were somewhat crestfallen, wall-fallen, and many other fallens by the time you made it to Dollymount for an early morning pre-ferry tea time. Not helped by the dodgy tummies and the incessant rain that arrived for your back nine adventures. I know you were probably self-medicating with alcohol and all sorts of stuff at that stage to try and forget about the blisters on your feet. Do you remember anything about Ireland?
Oh, just pure joy, really. The photos tell a pretty bad story for me because I put on about 12 kilos in a month, and it was all based down to the black stuff. We started Ireland. We took the ferry into Belfast with the car, and Jamie's family's from Northern Ireland as well. His dad's from Northern Ireland, so we had the most incredible game of golf, probably of his life at County Down, whereas his grandfather had been a member for 50 years before he moved out to New Zealand. We played with two of his old buddies, and they would have been in their 80s, and these guys were part of a four ball with Jamie's granddad like every Saturday for 40 years or 50 years or something. So we played with them at Newcastle, and like that was just one of the spiritual games of golf of our year. I remember that, like I remember Cypress Point. From there, we travelled in a counterclockwise direction, and so the start of the trip through, like, we played Portrush and we went around to Ballyliffin and down the west coast was just unbelievable. The spirit of the Irish, like, you know, you probably saw the video, but we ended up in the ocean at Ballyliffin after having a bet with the club captain. You know, we just had this absolute blinder in Lahinch the night before Ballybunion the night before our game there, where the locals took us out drinking and the night before, and the next day we turned up at the golf club. We pretty much met everybody already in the pubs. Just the spirit in the golf in Ireland was mind-blowing. I love, you know, the whole thing going back to Scotland was, I had no knowledge or understanding of links golf, so it was this big awakening for me, and I love it. It's golf to me. It's, you know, it's everything that I love about the game now, and in Ireland it just kind of crescendoed, and I think that when we were in Lahinch and Ballybunion, it was about as, you know, one of the real pinnacles of our trip, both socially, people we met, but also the golf. It's just crazy stimulating. And you look, Ireland was so wet. Out of 30 days, it probably rained 18, and our car was filled with wet clothes. It stank. You know, we were starting to become like really unhealthy because we were drinking too much Guinness and eating too many fried breakfasts, and all of our clothes were wet, and it was becoming a real struggle, but it was so much fun. By the time we got all the way around to your part of the world, Shane, we were at sixes and sevens. We were at absolute shambles.
And I guess at least you had something to hang on to back then. The All Blacks still hadn't been beaten by Ireland. It has happened a few times since.
No, if there's one team the All Blacks could lose to, it's Ireland. Bloody great to watch.
Well, you're very kind. You're very kind. It had to happen sooner rather than later. But I did hear a Kiwi basically saying before it happened, well, I wouldn't want to be on that team that happened to. It's happened a few times. It would have been
the most fun day in Chicago that day. You know, like,
no,
even for the Kiwis, like, it would have been fun.
Absolutely. Well, look, you went on to by ferry to Wales. I believe you played Southern Down. You may have got an L ticket for the Ryder Cup from Stevie Williams at the Swamp, also known as Celtic Manor. You thought it was wet in Ireland. It was pretty bloody wet over there.
Yeah, there was a bad week for the Ryder Cup guys. But there was a hell of a lot of people there. We were right on the green on the, I think it's the 16th or 17th hole, when that Hunter man flubbed his chip shot and lost to Graham McDowell, and there was probably 15,000 people on the bank and mud everywhere, but it was a wicked atmosphere. Steve Williams was a huge supporter of ours throughout the year, and he got us tickets to the Open at St Andrews back in July, and then he also got us tickets to Celtic Manor. It was crazy story, really, because we turned up at the players' entrance, and by then our car had lost a window, so we just had a plastic sheet over the side of it. And these, you know, there's only 24 players and the caddies and their wives kind of going up there, and we turned up and we're like, yeah, no, we've got a ticket up there, and they thought we were mean.
Sure you do.
And he said, oh, it's under Mr. Woods or Mr. Williams, we said. And then they said, it's not under Mr. Williams. And we said, try Mr. Woods. And I think it was, you know, So they let us up. We got up to the clubhouse there, jumped out of the car, and they valet parked our car, which was it had a window missing, and then we got escorted down into the golf course, missing security. We're the only people in Celtic Manic that day with the big camera, apart from media. And at the end, we got the shuttle back to the players hotel and drove away, missing the traffic. It was a bit crazy actually. Now knowing what I know about events,
Unbelievable. And you probably walked around with Michael Jordan or something like that.
there was a few people in the foyer of the clubhouse when we walked in there for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So no, Wales was fun. We were just there for a couple of days, but we went right down through the west coast of England, and we had a lot of fun in Bristol, and we had some of Jamie's friends there. One of the key things that happened through that part of the trip was, well, a couple of key things happened, but we were joined by one of our buddies called Bart de Vries, who's actually visiting me tomorrow on his honeymoon. But he joined us as a third person, and that took a little bit of the load off us, both our relationship with each other, which was fraught at times, and but also with our hosts, because he brought a lot of energy to the table when we were 250 plus days in and we were getting pretty tired. So he was a big part of our last 4 months. Another thing that happened was I lost my grandfather, so that was kind of tricky for me too, just to deal with that, being away, not coming home. My parents they'd come out for a holiday, been 2 or 3 weeks with us, and they had to cut that short. So there's those kinds of like life events that you miss when you're on the road. It's no different to anybody doing their OE, but for us there was no option of cutting short the trip and going home.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, mate.
No, it's fine. It's 12 years ago. He lived a great life, which I won't go into. It's another podcast.
Absolutely. But look, obviously we'll come back to England in a sec, but I know you went to France and you played golf to Morfontaine and Chantilly.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, is Morfontaine as good as they say it is?
Yeah, like it's just one of those places that oozes class. It's just the elegance of the routing, walkability, the consistency. I guess what Mackenzie would say, the finality of design, but there was a few changes made there, and maybe that's a little bit jarring, but it's just one of those places that oozes class, I suppose, only as French can. What probably sticks in my mind even more than the main course is the Valier course, the nine-hole course. Probably pronounced that wrong, but I think 9-hole courses are super cool, and that place stands out on pedestal, in terms of fun greens, the quirky nature of the routing, and par threes and short par five, and just bold. And it's one of those places that you can't go to the Morfontaine and not play the 9-hole course. It's everything that golf should be.
Obviously, both designed originally by Tom Simpson, but I believe the big course, if you like, the greens certainly have been softened. I know the Valier 9 are the original greens. Are they completely different in character, if you like, to the big course?
I didn't know that. I knew that some of the work was it Donald Steele?
Could be. You may know a little bit more. I certainly know that the Valier have the original greens.
Yeah, nothing was particularly jarring. It was just that the Valier greens were just that much sharper and funkier, and they really, when you're playing as much golf as we were, they really made you stop and go, wow, that's so cool. And I guess all the great courses did that, and that was one of those. And certainly the short course that made us stop and really walk around the greens 2 or 3 times rather than just walk off to the next tee.
Obviously, nearby is the Netherlands, and as you said, you were joined by a mate, Bart de Vries, for that and subsequent months, if you like. Bart was a physio. Was he much in need in terms of just rub downs and generally getting knots out of people's backs and necks at that point in time?
He was bloody useless, to be honest. He just brought a lot of energy to the table. He often went missing for a couple of days. we'd find him in the pubs with our business cards telling our story, pretending to be Jamie or I, and then we'd see him a couple of days later. Shouldn't say these stories, but I am. But he was wicked. He brought a lot of energy to the table, and it's what we needed. And we're all three of us are great mates to this day. So Bart's Dutch, and Jamie and Bart subsequently played hockey together in Holland. The golf in Holland was really cool. Some awesome links courses out there. If you class Kennemer as a links course, it's a really elegant cold course. Nordwijk's on some incredible land, and I just really enjoyed the different culture there, because it's not quite as it's not quite the same culture as the English and Scottish and Australian, New Zealand cultures. It's just a little bit different again.
I guess before you started the adventure, you probably didn't know there was much links golf on offer in the Netherlands. Was it a surprise to you, the quality and the quantity of it over there?
Yeah, look, before the year started, golf in Holland didn't ever feature in the same sentence. Holland was just because we had friends there, and it was about having fun. But now we know that it's a great golfing destination. There's a lot of I've subsequently been back and played Royal Hague, and probably one of the real top ones on my bucket list is De Pan, which I haven't been out to. And I've got a really good buddy who's managing Eindhoven Golf Club. So I know they've done some work down there. I'm really keen to see that. Obviously, their influence from Colt in Holland is really strong. And back in 2010, a little bit over our heads, it wasn't really the focus. It was about having a different experience. But now, from a golfing perspective, I'm hopefully going back there next month, actually, and I'm looking forward to playing a couple of new courses.
I think you passed through Belgium also. Obviously, you would have done to get from France to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
However, I guess the place where the main tourist attraction is the Manning Capiz, which is a small bronze figure pissing into a fountain. Hardly warrants much of a question. In all seriousness, I'm sure Belgium is great for golf, and may even have some good golf courses. I've yet to have the pleasure. Did you play golf in Belgium, or was it just a piss stop, for want of a better word?
We played on the way down to Paris, but we didn't stay a night. But it was just like most places, one of those times where a local guy who'd been following our trip, he met us, took us for a walking tour around Brussels, and then took us out and we played golf together. So, we got a nice little experience, which the golf was, I don't remember much of the golf course, but we had a lovely day. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, then back to England. So Sunningdale, Royal Lytham, Allwoodley, and again, I'm jumping all over the place here. The Belfry, the Sutton Coldfield, which probably has two good holes, to be fair. That's about it. Yeah. Woburn, St George's, New Zealand with Fitzy, Sean Fitzpatrick, the ex-captain of the All Blacks. We'll come back to that in a second. Roy St Port, Rye, Walton Heath, Berkshire, Birkdale, Rowan, North Devon. Busy gentleman in Blighty. What do you remember about your round with Sean Fitzpatrick? I know he's a member in New Zealand.
We played the New Zealand club, which is a beautiful place. I think it's had some recent work done over the last few years from Frank Pont and Mike DeFries, actually. It's just, it's one of those Heathland Surrey courses that just oozes charm. We had a wicked lunch, a few wines, great company, incredible company. And for us, it was playing with Fitzy is like playing with a rock star of New Zealand. So it was another otherworldly day. The golf course it's one of those places that doesn't feature on ranking lists, but if I was growing old, I don't know if there's a better place. Well, there probably is a better place, but it's just one of those members clubs which you just wouldn't tire of playing. Not at all. Yeah, it was a cool experience. The whole Heathland was new for us. It's almost like a different variety of golf, with the heather and the nature of it all. And it's probably one of the areas that I don't understand too well yet, and I'd like to go back and play a few courses there regularly, because I don't feel like I understand the genius of places like Sunningdale and Welton Heath. But just aesthetically, culturally, the experience, it was mind blowing.
Great. Well, it was on to Dubai then for a bit of night golf, and you hooked up with one Henrik Stenson, who I believe shot 29 blows around wherever you played in Dubai. I'm interested to know how that happened.
Yeah,
Not as 29, but how you got hooked up with him.
yeah. We for us, like the challenge was getting home because we're fighting. We had to fly, and then we had losing time zone as well. So the concept of traveling was and playing golf was kind of tricky. But then when you're losing multiple hours in the air as well, it's really tricky. So we ended up getting this guy contacted us called Chris Turlick, who's from Scotland. Well, he's actually English, but he lives in Scotland. And at the time, he was organising the golf tournaments in Dubai, and he essentially just put out an itinerary for us of like 9 days and nailed it all. And he was buddies with Henrik, and he organised for us to play with Henrik Stenson for 9 holes, and we played the other 9 just for us. And Henrik Stenson's obviously a ripping guy, super funny, and we were giving him so much shit, which I don't know if he expected. He'd like dropped down to the world rankings at that time, and we were kind of calling him washed up, and we're calling him Danish, and we were being real little cheeks. And he turned around and shot 29, and all we could do was applaud. I've stayed in contact with him actually, and ripping guy. Awesome to see that he's going to captain the Ryder Cup.
No, for sure. He seems to have a wicked sense of humour.
Yeah, he does. He's a funny man. Obviously, that comes through and for fans watching the tour. But Dubai was wicked. We finished that 9 days or 10 days with golf under floodlights at the Emirates Club in Dubai. So we started at midnight, and as we played each hole, the ground staff came around behind us and turned the lights off, and we finished at about 2 a.m. and pretty much went to the airport and flew out at 6 a.m. and managed to get all the way to Perth and play the next day. So it was this huge question for us the whole year, was how we were going to get back down to the Southern Hemisphere with long flight without missing a day of golf. And this chap, Chris Turlick, and the team at the Emirates Golf Club made it all happen. It was pretty humbling to think back of what they did for us.
Brilliant. Well, you literally turned the lights out at the Emirates Golf Club.
Yeah, no, it was special.
So obviously into Perth, and I think on this particular leg, and I'm gonna ask you a strange question, but we'll just look at. So obviously you played some golf in Perth, and then on to Adelaide, Royal Adelaide, Glenelg, Royal Melbourne, Kingston Heath, Commonwealth, Yarra Yarra, Victoria, Royal Queensland, I think was on the previous iteration, Barnbougle, Dunes, and Lost Farm. What did you make of Adelaide from a golfing perspective?
We were in Adelaide at the start of the year, so our golfing education was in its infancy then. At the time, there was this huge furore going on about Royal Adelaide because they'd had one hole redesigned by Mike Clayton. What do I make of Royal Adelaide? Adelaide as a golfing destination? I think it's blessed with some great attributes. It's got great land. I think the scale of the dunes and the landforms is perfect for golf. It's not too extreme. It's got this beautiful sea breeze that comes in. And it's got some golf courses in incredible spots. Look, we didn't play Kooyonga, so I can't comment on that. We played 2 courses at the Grange. We played Royal Adelaide, played Glenelg. Look, the golf could be better. And I think the golf could be a bit better, but it's still very, very good. And I think Royal Adelaide is a classy little place with a great routing, and the stretch of holes there, 3, 4, even 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through to 11, is one of the greatest stretches of golf in the world. And I think Royal Adelaide belongs in the world top 100, but it could be better.
So you make it home finally to New Zealand, and Juicy Car Rentals hook you up with some sort of a mobile to circumnavigate the remainder of, I don't know, was it the North Island or the South Island at the time, or a bit of both? There was an inter-island ferry involved there somewhere.
Yeah.
We will be revisiting the New Zealand golf destination in a little while, but
yeah.
It must have been some relief to get back home.
Yeah, it was awesome to get home. We both had, well, we both started the year with long-term girlfriends, and I still had mine at that stage. Jamie didn't. So seeing her was a big part of that. Also seeing family and friends, and it was a wicked time because friends would come and join us, and we were in a different space than we had been 10 months ago, where we were, just trying to get by. Everything was difficult. Travel was difficult. We kind of had our heads around the whole life on the road piece. So enjoyed it. Certainly, some doors opened up that were pretty cool. Like our experience in Queenstown was out of this world, and finishing the year at Cape Kidnappers, we had 30 or 40 friends join us, and it was a really special time because I think the emotional and physical toll out of the year was real. Everybody says it was just like this fairy tale year of golf, which it was on paper, but the relationship between Jamie and I was fraught at times, and it just took so much energy every night, giving yourself to families and trying to be open. And at the end of the year, we were emotional and we were tired, and it was really cool to have our family there for us to support us. So yeah, it was a beautiful year, of a month of my life. Yeah.
So a couple of quick questions just in relation to the whole year, if you like. So the best day, I'm kind of thinking maybe it was Shinny and Nashville, maybe it was Pine Valley, maybe it was Muirfield, maybe it was Queenstown, maybe it was Melbourne, or perhaps something else.
Yeah, that's a good question. We had one of the best days at West Hampton Golf Club in Long Island, where these guys kind of set it on themselves to say this is going to be the best day of your year, and they did a pretty bloody good job, to be honest. So I'd say West Hampton's up there. Clearly, from a golf perspective, we had a couple of days like National and Shinnecock and 36 holes at Sunningdale, which were really cool. But it's probably also quite hard to go past Cypress Point.
Yeah, particularly when you have most of it on video as well. You can always have you watched it recently?
No, I haven't. No, it just makes me
It's
look
still
old,
there.
real old when I watch it.
Yeah, you were pretty fresh faced, it must be said.
Yeah, now we were young looking 24-year-olds. So there was so many good days. It's actually difficult. It's a very difficult question to answer. Um, but we were blessed. Like we were so lucky.
So, what was the best view or the best reveal after a blind shot that you can remember?
Yeah, no, good question. Really good question. I love walking over the Alps at Presswick.
Okay.
17. Yeah. Is that? Yeah, that's the Alps.
You like your golf sporty, so.
Oh, 100%. The sportier, the better.
Okay. And what would you say to somebody that doesn't like blind golf shots?
You're missing out.
You're not speaking to one, by the way.
Yeah, you're missing out. Absolutely. Uh, how many times do you walk up to the crest and you're like, is it in the hole?
Yeah.
Um, the best round of golf of my year was actually at the Macquarie before it got bombed. And I shot 2 under par, and I think there's 17 blind shots on that course. But obviously people say a hole's only blind once, but I also think that the great golf architects, when they design blind holes, they do it in a way that makes you kind of instinctively know where to go. Often it's over the center of a saddle. So, it's quite rare for there to be like obscure blind shots like the Cruden Bay par 3, the first one. Is it 14 or 15?
Yeah.
When you're hitting over like the side of the hill, often they're kind of quite intuitive where to go. And I just think they're brilliant.
Best clubhouse grub.
Oh, you can't go past Muirfield, really, can you?
You'd have to have a few clarets with that then, so yeah.
Not good for my physical health, but yeah, Muirfield's pretty awesome clubhouse experience, isn't it?
I've yet to have the pleasure, but yeah, I can well imagine that. Did you get the whole day in there or just one round?
Yeah, we did the whole day there. I've been back subsequently, so that's maybe why I'm not sure. But yeah, I love that place. It's that sporty golf, foursomes golf, play quickly, enjoy your time in the clubhouse, and then get back into the elements. It's pretty cool.
Best airline used? I'm assuming you're not going to say EasyJet.
There wasn't a lot of airlines used, but on our year of golf, if you'd asked me this 12 years ago, I would have said in New Zealand 100%, because they upgraded us, and we realized that the flight from Auckland to San Francisco was kind of easy, and 12 years on, I can still say Air New Zealand the best by a mile.
Yeah, no, I'd have to concur with that. My limited experience with Air New Zealand, it's top notch.
And also, it's a home airline, right? So we home comforts.
Oh, for sure. Look, I just want a few special mentions. We've already obviously touched on your interactions with Jack Newton and Stevie Williams. I'd like to special mention to Mr. Sabino, or the Slambino.
Yeah.
What a swing he has. It's like an octopus falling out of a tree.
Yeah.
A man that's played, I think at this stage, all of the top 100 golf courses in the world. How did you get hooked up with John?
I don't know. But geez, he's a huge part of our job. I hadn't mentioned, I was going to mention it, but we stayed with him in New Jersey, played 3 or 4 games with him there. Actually, no, we only played 1 or 2 games with him there, but he then said, stay in my house because it's empty. So him and his family were on holiday, and he just said, here's the key, which for somebody that you'd only met once was crazy. And then he flew over and played Morfontaine with us and had one night only in Paris, with his buddy Chris. So he was such a kind, awesome supporter of ours. He put Jamie and I on a pedestal, which was completely unnecessary, but I just think he liked the adventurous part of what we were doing, and he obviously liked the golf part too. He came to New Zealand about 3 months after the trip finished. He came to Wellington. Jamie and I were living there, and we got the white overalls out and caddied for him and his mates, and it was so cool having him down under. Subsequently, seen him 2 or 3 times in the States, and in fact, this week, Augusta week, a few years ago, we had dinner together. He's a ripping guy. He's one of the great guys in the golfing community. Terrible golf swimmer.
Yeah. There's proof on the YouTube channel, but loves his golf, which is the main thing.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think you guys realize how inspirational your journey actually was, even still to this day. I mean, you're very, very modest and very self-deprecating, and it was inspirational in terms of just how you did it, and it's just interesting to scratch the surface and understand that you were kind of winging it at the start. But I think I think it changed your life though in many ways.
Yeah, it has. I finished the year, and it's kind of like a bit of depression from not playing golf the next day. Like, what do you do instead? But I think it took me a long time for the dust to settle. But I think that I realized that I wanted golf to be part of my life. So I've been on a bit of an adventure since then, and golf's been there or thereabouts the whole time, and that's a complete change from the start of this conversation, which golf was just a part-time hobby or part-time activity.
Adrian Logue of the Good Golf podcast talks about an eyes up as opposed to eyes down approach to playing and enjoying golf. I'm assuming you're now more eyes up as opposed to eyes down, and I'm keen to understand, if that's true, how your appreciation and perhaps understanding of the game of golf has evolved over the course of the PureGolf2010 trip and subsequently since then.
Yeah, that's a massive question, and my whole attitude to golf changed. And I probably think that would happen for most people doing what we did. I'll give you some examples. One is that I kept score at the start of the trip diligently. And there was always a tension between Jamie and I, a competitive tension. And over the course of the year, I stopped keeping score. So every day on our blog, we would say we had X amount of shots and birdies and whatever. And by about September, October, I just didn't care. It was, I'd like to win a match against Jamie or against whoever we're playing with, but the last thing I wanted to do was to write down our score. and I haven't kept score really since. Like, I don't really keep handicap anymore. I like to play match play, and we'll just organize shots on the first tee, a couple shots here or there. Um, so my whole attitude to the game and the relationship between golf and competitiveness has changed. Um, I think competitiveness is healthy, but it's not the be all and end all. And I guess when you take competitiveness out of the equation, then you open up the space for other things, the environment, the sky, the shots, the creativity. And I just think that it deepens the relationship that certainly I have with the game of golf by moving into those spaces. I think that for me, it's kind of like a true love where, when you love something, then you want to learn about it more and more and more. And you want to love every part of it, whether that's, the history of design, or if it's, the professional game, or if it's golf courses, or, even administrators. Like, I've got this deep love of golf where I'm leaning into kind of every corner of it. And, I feel like I'm quite fortunate to have embraced that and had that throughout the year. And I'm quite grateful for certain people that kind of open the door, or just creak the door open a little bit into some of those spaces of the game. I really remember staying with somebody who started talking about the golf swing, the evolution of the golf swing with the change of technology. And that just went way over my head, but it just kind of stuck with me. And then I started to pay a little bit of attention. So just like conversations like that throughout the year, which just opened up the game. And, I've still got infinite amounts to learn, but it's a pretty cool game.
It is, and that pit is bottomless in terms of, be it history, be it course design, be it any of those other elements. And in many ways, it's certainly it's a journey I've been on as well, as you can probably understand, and embrace it. But I actually find by giving up control and not really caring, it actually opens that space to play a little bit better potentially as well at times.
Yeah.
But it's more about having fun and hitting the shot and getting the endorphins from actually seeing a shot and hitting the shot, rather than and actually, if you don't manage to do it, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. That whole, these days, for me, if I play a golf course with like 3 exhilarating shots, I'd rather do that than play 18 goodish holes. Just 1 or 2 of those exhilarating shots just brings those endorphins to me. And that's what I love.
Just bringing you back ever so quickly to the end result of the year away and your efforts for the first tee of New Zealand. I believe that you raised over 35,000 New Zealand dollars. Congratulations, first of all. I'd like to understand if you know what the money was used for.
That's a good question. There wasn't like a specific project that it was used for. The first tee, I didn't mention at the start of this call, but it's obviously a global golfing charity, and it was in New Zealand and in South Auckland, and they had this facility with a driving range and two golf professionals, and there was hundreds of kids going through there. And for those that don't know about the first tee, it's not just about teaching them golf, it's about teaching them life skills. And one of the most impactful things when you go to a first tee facility anywhere in the world is the kids will come up to you, they'll shake your hand and say, "Hi, I'm Michael," and look you in the eye and engage you in conversation, which is quite confronting when it's like a 7 or 8 year old. But it's all about highlighting those skills from golf that help you in life. And the first tee just aligned with us from day one. The first tee chapters around the world helped us with some connections, particularly in the US. And when we got back, it was great I think it was just a little bit over 40 grand that we raised for the New Zealand chapter. But I can't say any specific thing. First tee in New Zealand, like many charities, struggled to get funding, and ultimately it was wound up about 3 or 4 years ago here, which was a real shame. But certainly continued going through until probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I think we probably contributed a little bit to that.
as I say, well done for your efforts. It was, I'm sure, put to very, very good use. Like, I know we skipped over the New Zealand part of the adventure, predominantly so I could have a chat to you about my experiences in New Zealand, but also your own. My brother lived in windy Wellington for a number of years, and I was very fortunate to make a number of trips to your wonderful country.
Oh, cool.
Since I was last in the land of the long white cloud, there's been a plethora of recent development through Windross Farm, Tara Eady, the north and south courses at Tearai. I know the Corn Crenshaw course is finished pretty much, and Tom Doak, Angela Moser and Clyde Johnson are currently in the midst of design and build of the south course, adding to obviously a support cast that includes Cape Kidnappers, Carry Cliffs, Jacobs Point, Kinloch, and old favourites of mine such as Wairaki, Tilarangi, and Alex Russell's worldy Param, which I believe you were a member of at one point in time. Obviously Arrowtown as well, which would you believe is one that got away, despite spending 2 days in Queenstown and playing Jack's Point and the Hills. I didn't play Arrowtown. I got to go back.
Yep.
Yeah. What advice would you proffer to the international golfer in terms of organising a golf trip to New Zealand?
Yeah, I'd actually say bring your wife or bring your husband and make it about more than golf, because New Zealand is about more than golf, and don't rush. That's probably the main thing I'd say. If you're just coming on a golf trip specifically, then you've got different options. You know, this New Zealand landscape is going to change with these 2 new courses at Te Corn Crenshaw and Doga course. And if you can get access to Taraiti as well, you're going to have 3 absolute world beaters, probably world beaters up there, all really accessible to each other. The challenge with New Zealand is that geographically, the great golf is quite disparate. So if you're looking for those top 5 or 6 courses, then there's a bit of travel around New Zealand, and that's why I say take your time and enjoy what the country has to offer.
You surely need 6 weeks really to see the place properly.
Or 16 years.
Well, that too. 16 years and a visa.
need another pandemic, 2 years without working. Bring it on.
Yeah. Well, every cloud and all that one. Come here. I mean, needless to say, the scenery in New Zealand, I mean, even the scenery in the North Island is pretty spectacular in terms of the Tongariro crossing and whatever else. But really, once you get down to the South Island, I recall first time flying from Wellington down to Queenstown, and that's a pretty hairy descent into Queenstown in terms of final approach and whatnot, with the Remarkables literally right on top of you. The scenery down the South Island is just absolutely phenomenal. The Southern Alps are just stunning, and I guess coming from Australia as I was at the time, or having seen Australia in close proximity, you know, you can be at the top of the glacier down at the beach in about half an hour, which obviously, and you have so much more contrast very, very quickly in New Zealand, where I guess Australia is just so much bigger and you got to travel so much farther to actually get that contrast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can, as the story goes, you can ski and play golf down here in the same day. But it's also down in the South Island's a great climate for golf. The grass is great for firm and fast golf. There's a great weather. There's some real things in our favour for golf down here. A bit like Ireland.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not as if it doesn't rain there either. So I know you said earlier on that it rained 18 days at 30 in Ireland. But it does rain in New Zealand as well every now and then. Maybe not so much during the summer, but
not where I've moved to, but everywhere.
No, certainly Canterbury Plains and Central Otago, it's pretty bone dry during the summer.
I'm an hour away from Queenstown, and we get only a quarter of their rainfall here. So I'm in essentially the most inland part of the South Island, which is almost desert-like. But everywhere else, it's normal rainfall.
You'd almost swear that you planned that, Mr. Goldstein.
No, it's a story for another day.
Okay, perfect. Look, I'm keen to understand what happened since Pure Golf. I know you lived and worked in Hong Kong for a while, working for a sports marketing agency. You somehow managed to play 10 courses in Mission Hills on the same day. How did that transpire?
Yeah, after my year of golf, I spent a lot of the next year in China, traveling with a chap called Darius Oliver, who's a good mate of mine, and is now building golf courses, and we were exploring China a bit of an ad hoc way, and came up with the opportunity to play every course at the high code facility of Mission Hills in a day, which I did. It was interesting.
Was it speed golf? Did you run around, or how did that work?
We had golf carts, and they cleared the way, and we went through. And there's some good golf courses there, to be honest, and some of the better ones in China that I've seen. And that whole island, that whole Hainan Island, is where we went to the Crenshaw course, and there's another couple there down there. The name's designed by Weisskopf. The name's forgetting it, but certainly the Crenshaw course is it's called Shankin Bay. It's really good, really good. One of the best golf courses in the world, probably.
I've heard good things about there. So you went on then to, I think you started your own gig, the Clubhouse, which is obviously seen you secured at one point an LPGA co-sanctioned event to New Zealand in the form of the Macassan New Zealand Women's Open. Or more recently, WRC Rally Stop, which is due in Auckland this coming September. What can you tell us about Rally New Zealand, what's coming to Auckland in September, and the Clubhouse itself?
Yeah, the World Rally Championship, I think there was talk about having an event in Northern Ireland this year, but it's not happening. So yeah, the World Rally is a major event, which I'm leading the New Zealand project, or the New Zealand event out of that championship this year. But I got into events pretty much after a year in China. There was a new golf tournament that was set up down here in Queenstown, and it was a Pro-Am style, so kind of like the Dunhill Links. And I started as a green golf lover. That was 11 years ago, and essentially with a team of people, we've grown that event over 10 or 11 years, and it's now the New Zealand Open. And leaving COVID aside, it's becoming one of the best golf tournaments down here in Australasia. And it's played not like the Dunhill is played across 3 courses. Ours is only played across 2 courses. But we've been steadily increasing the quality of the field and the prize money, and it's been sanctioned by the Asian Tour and the Japan Golf Tour for the last few years. So essentially, I cut my trade on that tournament, and through that time, I guess just grew in a bit of responsibility, such to the point that we then decided to take on an LPGA tournament, which was the first one ever in New Zealand. So we did that in 2017, which was a lot of fun, a lot of travel, working with the partners in Korea and the US. But ultimately, our partner in Korea was probably the wrong partner, and our tournament was short-lived, which gave me a few grey hairs at the time and a few life lessons. But, it was great working with the LPGA Tour, and obviously Lydia Ko is, generationally is massive for New Zealand. So yeah, I've just kind of embarked on this career in major events, and it's taken me from golf to motorsport. And I'd like to stay involved in the golf tournaments, but it's difficult to bring these major events down to New Zealand. We're a small country, like Ireland, and it's hard to find the money to make it happen.
One of the ways you are staying involved in the golf industry, nonetheless, is on Ran Morissette's Golf Magazine rating panel. How has that experience been for you thus far?
It's been really frustrating, if I'm being honest, Shane, because 2 months after I got the invitation, COVID hit. And New Zealand has had a very, very hard border. We could travel, but it's very difficult to get back. And if we do, we've had to do 2 weeks quarantine. So through the entire time I've been part of that panel, it's been difficult to contribute. And hopefully that's about to change in the next. Our borders have opened in the last 4 weeks, for those that didn't know, and hopefully I'll be able to travel next month and start contributing again. But I obviously love golf, and I love golf design and golf architecture, so I'm very privileged and grateful to be part of that panel, and I'd like to really make a good contribution to it. So
I ask all of my guests the same final few questions. So as a well-travelled golfer, you might let the listeners know what 5 courses appear on your bucket list. They can be courses you've played before and want to get back to, or ones that you've yet to visit. The choice is yours, Mr. Goldstein.
Oh, that's a big question.
And look, it's a loose 5, so if you want to give me 6 or 7, that's cool too.
Yeah. Well, if I could wake up tomorrow and play golf anywhere in the world, it'd be at St Andrews. So I've fortunately been back there quite a few times in the last 10 years, but it's still, if I could play tomorrow, it'd be there. I really want to play Japan, which I mentioned earlier, so I'll refer to that one. I am super keen to have a day out at Swinley Forest. So that's right up there in my bucket list. I'd love to go to Bandon Dunes. Haven't been there, but obviously a bit of a trailblazer and destination golf. So I'd put that up there. And then I'd probably come up with a different answer every day to this question. But again, tomorrow, if I could be transported to one place to play golf, and it was not St Andrews, probably be Royal Melbourne West. I absolutely adore that place. It's premium.
Have you had the opportunity to explore that particular onion in terms of its layers on a few occasions, or?
Yeah, after my year of golf, when I got to know Darius, and before moving to China, I had spent a couple soul searching months in Melbourne, and I didn't do too much, but I did play a lot of golf at Royal Melbourne, and that was quite a formative time. Like I think there's one thing playing game of golf every day for a year, but there's another thing getting to know a golf course, and there's a few golf courses that are pretty close to my heart now that I've got to know pretty well. And one of them's Paraparaumu Beach, which I think's definitely a world top 100,
majestic,
if not a world top 50 course. I think it is hugely underrated, and it's just a brilliant links course. Another place is Royal Melbourne West. A couple of places in Ireland which I've played 7 or 8 times at Illahinch and Ballybunion, which just adore them as well. But it's been a few years now since I've been there. But yeah, certainly Royal Melbourne West fits in that camp. I think it's absolutely world class.
I have yet to have the pleasure. I mean, I was in Australia in January 20, and it was a major amateur tournament on at the time. So
yep.
I am reciprocal through Royal Dublin, but there was no chance of getting on. So it's right at the top of my list in terms of just exploring it and playing it, hopefully playing it a few times if they'll have me. But it strikes me as the pure embodiment of Mackenzie's 13 principles, essentially.
Yeah. It's, I know that for me, the first 7 holes at Royal Melbourne West, just, it's kind of like that feeling that I was talking about before at Cypress Point. It's got everything. It's got that width and the ease off the first hole to get into the round. And then it's got these just cracking shots where you've got to shake the ball, you've got to use the ground. I just think the first 7 holes at Royal Melbourne West are one of golf's absolute treasures. And it gets a little bit mixed from there. It's not bad, but obviously the composite course, which you see on the President's Cup, takes the very best of the property. To me, the first 7 holes at Royal Melbourne West are just unfaultable.
What did yourself and Jamie make of Barnbougle, actually, out of interest? I sort of didn't touch on Tassie too much.
Yeah, we played Barnbougle right at the end of our trip, and it was again one of those penny drop moments from a golf development perspective, because obviously they did an epic job there. Like Barnbougle Dunes, I haven't been back since 2010, but I know that it's awesome. I think if I went back, I'd probably rate it even higher. It's just natural. It's where golf should be played. And certainly when we left there was like, how do we do that in New Zealand? How do we create a Barnbougle Dunes in New Zealand? And, fortunately for Kiwis, it's kind of been done up at Tara ET and TRI. But it's just one of those developments that just oozes golf, and it's kind of like they just cut the grass and there's this golf course. And that's what it's all about, really.
It just has that vibe in terms of it's comfortable in its own skin.
Absolutely,
it's there for you to be enjoyed, and they cater for every whim is the wrong word, but just every requirement in terms of the different food options, the different sort of bars, the different facilities, etc., etc. And it's just the staff are just really cool and they want you to have a good time.
Probably the best quality golf, best like value for money golf in the world. If you think about it, like these golf courses are genuinely top 100, if not top 50 in the world, and I think it's only about 150 Aussie dollars around. So that's 70 or 80, 90 euro.
I think it's actually 125 Aussie. Would you believe?
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
But it's astronomical. Like, and you have the added adventure of bumping into Roscoe, the golfologist behind the counter at Lost Farm or Barnbougle, who tells the jokes, and he's just a sarcastic fella, and I can imagine he gets the Americans that visit get the complete and utter wrong end of the stick from with him, if you like. He tells the jokes, and that's that. I remember I brought a letter of introduction, and he goes, "Mate, you're from Ireland. Of course you're a fucking golfer."
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But look, I think last but by no means least, Mr. Goldstein, you might recommend 2 golf books that you would suggest for our listeners. They can be on any topic in golf, architecture, history, or anything else.
Yeah, you did give me a heads up on that one. I'm looking at both of them on my bookcase. So I'll say The Spirit of St Andrews, which I think every golf architect should give it to their clients before they start working with them. I think it's a brilliant book. And the other one for me is Golf in the Kingdom, which is a different take, but it's about spirituality in golf. And for me, I know that that's a book that some people love and some people could take or leave, but for me, that book kind of really touches me in the right way. So must read if you're into golf and spirituality.
That's written by Michael Sheila Sarn's one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I think it's Michael Murphy. Okay. Golf in the Kingdom. Okay. Yeah.
I've heard of it. I've not read it. Michael, before we let you go, you might tell people where they can find you should they wish to reach out for anything in particular.
Where are they going to find me? My email, I'll give it to you, and you can put it on your blog.
Grant.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure taking you down this memory lane trip for the retrospective look at Pure Golf 2010 and what you've been at since. I really enjoyed the chat, and many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, it's been great to talk.
Many thanks for tuning in. As usual, you can find us online at firmandfast.golf or on Twitter at firmandfastgolf. Please continue to like, subscribe, and comment. It really is appreciated. Until the next time, happy golfing.